Welcome back to Watch the Bookerman and to the 8th episode of Paul Heyman's TNA 2010, and this is the second pay-per-view of the Paul Heyman era, and as you can see on the screen there, that's our card for the show. I think it's a pretty strong card. We've got another couple of matches that I've not put in there yet. Homicide and Samoa Joe versus Daniels and Tomko, which I just forgot to put in, and Amazing Red against a unknown challenger. Well, actually, that match isn't confirmed yet. That's the reason it's not actually on the pre-book, because that match hasn't officially been signed for yet, but I might have just given away something that happens on the show. We are back in the Impact Zone for this. I'm pretty sure I've set the Impact Zone as our location yet. So let's get into the show and see what happens at Against All Odds 2010. And as usual, a video package opens the pay-per-view, promoting the marquee matches on the card, particular focus, of course, on the TNA World Heavyweight Championship match between AJ Styles and Desmond Wolfe in that main event. We also see the moment from the episode after Genesis where Kurt Angle headbutted Mr. Anderson, sparking a rivalry between the two of them. Mara Ronaldo and Taz then introduce us to the show as we get ready for the first match of the night. So it's a solid open to the show as we go into a good first match, and it is Generation Me versus the Hooligans. The story here has been that Generation Me are a young upstart team. The Hooligans came in around the same time as they did. They're both new to TNA, but of course Hooligans have a little bit more experience and seem to think they know everything there is to know. They've been trying to pass on those tips to Generation Me, but have in turn sort of cost them matches here and there, and there's clearly not the pure intentions that London and Kendrick are claiming, but they are actually defeated when Nick Jackson rolls up Paul London to pick up a surprise upset victory. We're definitely selling this on commentary as a big upset, but actually, based on the performances, they're all at a pretty similar level. Kendrick standing out, London and Matt Jackson both doing well. Nick Jackson a little bit behind, but it's a 12-minute match and the two teams doing really well, and I think that's a solid opening to the pay-per-view. After the match, the winners celebrate in the ring. The Hooligans appear to be in a little bit of a state of shock. They protest the finish of the match, but they've really got no leg to stand on. Nick Jackson did just fairly roll up Paul London and pick up the win. The commentator's putting over a huge win for the Young Brothers and a 41 okay, and that's the first match done as we go into the X Division Championship segment. Before anything, Tracy Brooks comes down to the ring and she is holding the contract that she's been trying to get the X Division champion Amazing Red to sign in the last couple of weeks. She calls out Red, telling him that it is time for his decision. Amazing Red says that he's decided that a title shot needs to be earned, not handed to somebody without even knowing who that somebody is. There's nothing to say that this man has earned a shot at the X Division championship, and Brooks says that is absolutely fine. Red has chosen to do this the hard way, and she points to the ramp as the music of Suicide hits. It doesn't take Red long to figure out what's going on. Of course, Suicide unmasked recently on Impact, but the momentary confusion is enough for Kazarian to slide in the ring. He's come down undetected. He lays Amazing Red out from behind. He then lays into Amazing Red, boots into him, and picks up the X Division Championship. Kazarian is going to leave with the X Division title, but as him and Tracy Brooks head up the ramp, Red grabs a microphone and tells Kazarian to come back, bring the title with him, because he will fight him right now. So losing heat to the storyline, but it's still a decent rated segment as we go into the somewhat impromptu second match of the night, and actually that nature does play into the favour of Kazarian. The pre-match attack being one thing, but also Kazarian knowing that he's been making this challenge for a couple of weeks, whereas Red has literally just learned that he's facing Kazarian, and Kazarian basically overpowers him. It's not often you'll see Kazarian take that type of approach in a match, because of course he's usually either a similar size or smaller than his opponent, but he's actually overpowering Red and beats him with a trap leg. I was thinking his face, is that trap leg sunset bomb? Trap leg traps. I'm not 100% sure what that move is. In my mind, it was the fade to black that he does, which is like a tombstone type move over his shoulders. So either way, Kazarian wins the X Division title. I can't quite imagine in my head what the leg trap sunset bomb is. Leg trap sunset bomb. Is it like a code red or... Yeah, Kazarian wins anyway, a 62 rated match, so that's a really good X Division Championship match, happy with that. And after the match, Tracy joins Kazarian back in the ring, husband and wife team that we've put together. I just think that Kazarian will look better having a manager with him and makes him look a bit more of a big deal. He's just come back, so he's a fresh face in a way. We've not seen him for about 18 months at this time, so I think that really trying to present him as a star I don't necessarily think he's going to be a main eventer, but we're doing whatever we can at this point to try and make sure that he looks as good as he possibly can, and maybe he will get some big matches in the future, who knows. But the commentators call out the heist that just took place, Tracy Brooks and Kazarian taking advantage of Amazing Red, but Morrow says that he's sure that Red will be back and better next time because he will be prepared for everything that these two have in store. This isn't in any way moving Kazarian away from the Daniels stuff, by the way. It's just going to be another string to his bow. Daniels has been kind of focusing on the world title. He's not got the win-loss record that would suggest he's getting a title shot anytime soon, but Kazarian is the X Division champion, and maybe Daniels can go for the global championship, or nothing's 100% decided in the sense of an Abyss Daniels angle, but the point being Kazarian, of course, back and the X Division champion. Before the third match of the night, a video package recaps the rivalry between Kurt Angle and Mr. Anderson. This kicked off on the episode of Impact following Genesis. As I said before, Angle was irritable after his defeat and was just not in the mood for Anderson's sort of brand of promo. He was being light-hearted and trying to have a few jokes with Kurt Angle. He didn't do anything wrong, but Angle was just not in the mood for it because he'd been beaten by AJ at Genesis and headbutted Mr. Anderson from out of nowhere. Later he apologised and Anderson told him to forget about it. They both seemingly dropped the issue, but of course that wasn't ever going to be the case. The next week they were putting a tag team match together. The idea was that Paul Heyman wanted to try and reignite the rivalry in a way. He wanted them to in close proximity and see if they could actually get along. Turns out they couldn't because Mr. Anderson dropped off the apron and left Angle to be pinned by Desmond Wolfe. Since then, things have heated up even more during a number one contendership match that they were both involved in, and this past Thursday, the two men brawled and had to be pulled apart after Mr. Anderson picked up a dominant victory over Shark Boy. And this match goes 15 minutes and 12, and it's a good match. A great performance from Kurt Angle, that 87 there. Mr. Anderson's in-ring work isn't that good, but again, we've not had a chance to build in much momentum yet. The two have good chemistry, and that is why we get a really good match. I think I actually set this one to steal the show. I always click the wrong one. Road Agent notes steal the show. It's a decisive submission victory for Kurt Angle, who in 15 minutes makes Mr. Anderson tap out. And we really want Anderson to sell how much pain he's in during his ankle lock, sort of to an obnoxious degree. We want Anderson to be annoying even in defeat. He's going to be annoying when he wins matches by gloating. The way he's shouting and yelling out and slapping on the mat, everything about Anderson is obnoxious is what we're trying to get across. And having picked up the win, Kurt Angle stands tall in the ring. A hard-fought, heated contest. This rivalry isn't over, but Kurt Angle has made Mr. Anderson tap out, a decisive victory in the first match that they're having. And afterwards, Anderson is really selling his injury. He quite quickly taps out to the ankle lock, and he's putting over so much how much pain he's in that it actually detracts attention from Angle's victory. He's on the outside and he's just making so much noise and just really telling Anderson to ramp up the annoyingness as we end the first hour and begin with the rivalry between Joe and Daniels, which predates the start of the year, predates the Paul Heyman era, but it did certainly seem to heat up once the new year began. 2009 ended with Tom Cole revealing his allegiance to Daniels, which changed the dynamic. Daniels had previously denied any wrongdoing, but he was fully set as a heel now, and despite his presence, Tom Cole at ringside, Joe still beat Daniels on the January 7th 3-hour Impact Live special. Daniels then went to Plan B, and at Genesis 2010, Suicide appeared to cost Samoa Joe in his match with Daniels. This in turn saved Tom Cole's job. This brought Homicide into the fold, who had some stuff with Suicide and Daniels previously. Eventually, the whole world knew, and this match was made. Kazarian was Suicide, but Homicide had other issues, namely with D'Angelo De Niro in the last couple of weeks, so the question remains as to whether Samoa Joe can trust such a loose cannon figure. He certainly had a few crossed words with Homicide in the last week, so who knows how well they will get along, whereas we know that Daniels and Tom Cole are very much on the same page. The commentators tell us that the pre-match concerns about Homicide were proved to be well-founded, and they'd been holding out to make this announcement, but unfortunately they can confirm that Homicide has no showed against all odds. He is not in the building, he's not been seen all day, and this close to the match starting, they have to say that he will not be competing. Even if he got in now, it will be too late. Samoa Joe comes out, and he is no stranger to breaking this kind of news to fans. Of course, he had the time when he had to call out Scott Hall when he'd no-showed. I think they used Eric Young as replacement for him at the time, and he kind of did a little bit of a work shoot that Kevin Nash didn't know was a work, so there was a little bit of tension there. But that aside, Joe says that he doesn't really care about himself. He'll happily fight Tom Cole and Daniels. He's dealt with the numbers game of that group before. It's all the people in the building who Homicide has punked out on. He goes into a little bit of a promo, evoking that promo that he did about Scott Hall, leaning into it a little bit, not too much, but Joe wouldn't actually have to fight alone, as the Pope D'Angelo De Niro, the man who seems to have sent Homicide over the edge, comes out to the ring and says that these people came to see a tag team match, and that is what they're going to get. Joe is initially reluctant. There's still some kind of loyalty towards Homicide. Of course, they'd agreed to team together, and Homicide seems to have this absolute hatred for D'Angelo De Niro for whatever reason. But he doesn't see why he shouldn't team with D'Angelo De Niro just because Homicide, who's let him down in the first place, isn't there. Joe and De Niro both improvising well, and we've got a new partner for Samoa Joe. Homicide's replacement is D'Angelo De Niro, and it's a 61 rated segment, so not too bad there at all, as we go into the fourth match of the night. And we get great heat and good wrestling, and actually D'Angelo De Niro and Samoa Joe, despite being a first time team, do really well together and pick up the victory. You guessed it, Tomko taking the fall, Samoa Joe pinning him. Joe has pretty much beat Tomko every time that they've been in the ring together. I think Tomko's lost every match he's been involved in, to be honest. Joe's yet to really pin Daniel since that January 7th show. They've been in quite a long-term feud. We're including, before I even started the previous series. So it's October at the very least, or maybe it started in November just as I took over. But Daniels still seems to be avoiding getting pinned or submitted by Joe. It's a victory for the makeshift team, and based on the ratings, Samoa Joe and Daniels, the two best performers. De Niro not doing too bad. That's his first match back, so I was a little bit intrigued as to see how he'd do. A 62 is not bad at all, and a 68 match rating overall is really good. Happy with that overall. And after the match, working remarkably well together as a first-time team. Joe and Pope stand tall, clearly not quite friends yet, but with a mutual respect after an impressive display. Joe thanks Pope for stepping up and having his back tonight before he left up the ramp. The commentators say that wherever Homicide is, and if he's watching this, he will not be happy with what he is seeing, but Taz remarked that Homicide only has himself to blame for the fact that Joe and De Niro had to work together tonight because he no-showed. Desmond Wolfe then speaks with Jeremy Borash, and he talks about tonight's main event. He's facing AJ Styles for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship, and he is vowing that he will take that title from AJ Styles and do what it took Styles 7 years to do in under 6 months with the company. He asks JB, how's that for phenomenal? He adds that everybody wants to talk about how great AJ was for beating Kurt Angle last month, but reminds them that he has 4 falls over Kurt Angle, and it will only take 1 fall to take AJ Styles' World Heavyweight Championship. So it's not a great promo from Desmond Wolfe really, and loses heat to the segment, which is really not what we need. Hopefully AJ Styles' promo and the video package later can add a little bit more heat to that. I'm thinking now that maybe I should have put Angle in the video package that I've got just before the main event to try and boost up the overness, and he would be featured in it because we'd show AJ beating him at Genesis and Wolfe's wins over him. I didn't do that. It's just rated on Desmond Wolfe and AJ Styles, so it might struggle a little bit, and I'll probably get that note again that I got last time about the lack of heat from associated segments. So the main event's probably not as good as it could have been, is the point. As the Knockouts Tag Team Champions, we go back to ringside then, and they make their entrance, Awesome Kong and Hamada, with Jimmy Jacobs, who is cutting a promo, putting over the 2 members of the New Age, and says that he has no doubt that they can outmatch the beautiful people in the ring. The leader of the New Age, however, has his eye on the outside, and specifically Lacey Von Erich, who has joined Velvet Sky and Madison Rayne at ringside. There's a lot of pressure on her coming from Angelina Love, but Jacobs also singling her out. He says that he knows what they have planned, and his job is to stop Lacey. As Jacobs takes his position at ringside for the match, Lacey Von Erich actually confronts him, and considering she's notably taller than him, towers over him, looks down on him. Sort of supposed to be a funny image in a way. Jimmy Jacobs is very short, and he backs up, clearly not wanting to get into it with a Von Erich. Lacey Von Erich does try and get involved, but Kong and Hamada really are levels above their opponents and pick up the victory. The second defense of the Knockouts Tag Team Championships. Hamada the weak link with only a 39, Awesome Kong a 57, Velvet Sky a 57, just as good as Awesome Kong, and a 52 for Madison Rayne. Obviously, the beautiful people popular at this time, so it's partly down to their overness. I'd imagine Kong and Hamada both have better in-ring skills. Hamada and Jimmy Jacobs work well together, which is good to see. Lacey Von Erich doing well at ringside, but the fact that Jimmy Jacobs is a heel and Kong and Hamada are faces, I mean, it's a fair note because that is true, but it's again the grey areas. I've actually got the face-heel divide set to it's on, but it's not strictly enforced. I don't think it's enforced at all, actually, because I want to have the opportunity to change things when, I mean, Anderson, in a way, was a face, then a heel at the start of this save within the space of a month, and people can change, and I do think that in every situation, not the same person is always the face and the heel. We've got a lot of storylines already, like I've said. that are supposed to play on that you can see either side of the rivalry. So we're getting that negative note. I hope it didn't really actually take anything away from the match, because I do actually have the face-heel divide not strictly enforced. It might say in here, because her manager, unlike her, is a technico, which is not true. That's the opposite. So that's quite strange. But Hamada and Kong defeat the Beautiful People, and remember, Lacey Von Erich was told that she had to ensure all the gold came back to the Beautiful People, so she has failed the first half of that mission. She'll probably be out for the Knockouts Championship match, of course, but the focus has to be, after the match, on Jimmy Jacobs joining Awesome Kong and Hamada in the ring, and everything he has said about these two is proving true. They are a dominant team in this company, and again, the commentators mentioned the Beautiful People angle, but that's going to be in the back of the mind until that match later, as the tag team champions stand tall. We then go into a better promo. It advances the storyline but doesn't add to it, so that tells me that the storyline is around a 70, but AJ Styles improvising well, speaking with Jeremy Borash and responding to the words from Desmond Wolfe earlier in the night. He says that Wolfe can make all the guarantees he wants before the match, because until he's actually stepped foot in the ring with AJ Styles, he has no idea what he's getting himself in for. He doesn't know what AJ Styles is capable of bell to bell. Styles says that many people have come in over the last 7.5 years from promotions all over the world with just as much reputation as Desmond Wolfe has, and all of them thought they could beat AJ Styles. Styles says that some of them did, they were right, but none of them faced him while he had the TNA World Heavyweight Championship over his shoulder. This title means that he is the very best wrestler on the face of the planet, and he is going to prove that in tonight's main event, and he will prove it to anybody who wants to question that fact. And if AJ is the best wrestler in the world, the Motor City Machine Guns are the best tag team in the world, as they pick up a victory against a different opponent, Hernandez and Morgan. They're more used to facing teams similar to their size, even when they've faced Beer Money in the past. They're only slightly bigger than them, whereas Hernandez and Morgan are two very, very big guys. That doesn't mean they can't go in the ring. Two good performances from them, pretty much matching the Motor City Machine Guns. They are just as good as them, really. And Matt Morgan seemed off his game, so maybe if he wasn't, he would have been the star performer of the match. Gaining heat to the storyline and the good chemistry, and it's another good tag team match. 60 is about what we're getting with these guys. Eventually, again, I've said it a million times, we want to be up to that next level, but it is the third defense of the titles for the Motor City Machine Guns, and they stand tall. The commentator is putting over that they will not have faced a team like Hernandez and Morgan for a very, very long time, but they proved that they are dynamic, they can roll with the punches, and they adapted their approach and picked up the victory. Marinello said that you would be hard pressed to find anybody who didn't consider Shelley and Sabin to be the best tag team in the world. Taz made little argument, but was sure that it wouldn't stop other members of the TNA tag team division from trying to take their titles. With the Motor City Machine Guns recovering from their hard-fought victory in the ring, Sabin and Shelley are caught off guard when the music of Team 3D hits, making their first appearance within the Impact Zone in 2010. The last time we saw them, I think, was at Final Resolution 2009. They appeared on Impact a couple of times in interviews and backstage segments, but the first time they're in front of the crowd in this year, and they come down to the ring. They're not there to talk to the Motor City Machine Guns. Paul Heyman said on Impact that he was bringing these guys back into the fold, and they're taking advantage of that at the very first opportunity. They take down the World Tag Team Champions, a brutal attack completed, as Devon is told to get the tables. Alex Shelley receives a 3D through a table, Chris Sabin receives a 3D through a table, and it's very, very clear now, as Brother Ray and Brother Devon stand tall, they are coming for the tag team titles, and Taz adds, best team in the world, Team 3D might have something to say about that. So I have made my decision. I wasn't sure if I was going to bring Team 3D back into the fold. We're certainly going to use them for this little program, and see over the next couple of weeks where that's going. But I did think they've got so much history and such accolades, they've won titles absolutely everywhere, that I at least want to do one storyline with them and just play on that, use the fact that they've won titles in WWE, WCW kind of, ECW, NWA, TNA, New Japan even very, very recently, and Team 3D of course. Very much do not agree with the statement that Motor City Machine Guns are the best tag team in the world, but when they face off, we will find out exactly who that best team is. A video package then promotes the rivalry going into the Knockouts Championship match. ODB and Tara have had long-term issues. Again, another storyline that has lasted the entirety of me booking them from November all the way through now to February, and who knows, it might continue depending on the result of this match. They were sidetracked from their personal rivalry by the return of Angelina Love. She seems to have refocused and re-energized the beautiful people, and she made it clear that she intends to become the next Knockouts champion. She made that clear on her first night back with the company. She has used that numbers advantage, the fact that the beautiful people seem to have got back in line behind her. She's had time away since September, but that didn't see, she's not missed a beat in terms of being in charge of the beautiful people. Tonight she has demanded the championships come back to the beautiful people. Madison Rayne and Velvet Sky failed earlier, but the pressure now is on Lacey Von Erich even more. She has to ensure that that title comes back to Angelina Love. It's only Lacey Von Erich who joins Angelina Love at ringside. Madison Rayne and Velvet Sky, we are told, are in no condition to be coming out after what happened to them against Kong and Hamada. But actually, Tara does retain the title. She pins Angelina Love following a botched interference from Lacey Von Erich. So it seems like ODB's out the picture. Love is calling on Lacey Von Erich to do whatever she needs to do. Of course, there's no disqualifications in a match like that. So I know she had that baton that she carried around. Yeah, so she clocks Angelina Love accidentally with that baton, which allows Tara to hit the Widow's Peak, retaining the title with defense number 2. 61 rating for Tara. The other two just a little bit below, advancing the storyline, and as planned, this match brought the fans back down a little bit, calmed the crowd just before the main event. I've had notes in past on previous games where the main event gets dinged because the crowd were at an emotional peak, I think it says. So I want to make sure that pretty much all the time we give the chance to calm the crowd back down a bit, but it's still a good match, and I feel a little bit bad making the Knockouts title a calm the crowd match, but a good heat and a decent match and a solid rating, so I'm not feeling too bad about that. And Tara celebrates retaining the title. Discussion does turn though to Lacey Von Erich's failure to secure Angelina Love victory. Not only that, she actually hindered her chances. That story will of course develop this Thursday on Impact, but whatever happens between them, Tara is still the Knockouts champion. But ODB, who had her rematch ruined by the beautiful people and has now not been pinned in this triple threat, she does have an argument to get maybe one more match with Tara, so perhaps that is the next defense of Tara's title. While we're tuning up for the main event, Mauro and Taz talking about this high stakes match that we've got coming up. The commentators sent to the back as they have heard something from Lauren Brooke. She sees Mick Foley leaving the office of Paul Heyman. Of course, the incident would have been that Mick Foley had been seen entering the office of Paul Heyman, but we managed to catch him just as he's leaving. So it's been a fairly short conversation with Paul Heyman, but having been out in the cold since the announcement that Heyman was coming to TNA, Mick Foley is a minor stakeholder in the company, so he does actually have some pull, but he has been kept completely in the dark about what's going on with Paul Heyman and was essentially told that he was not needed. This is the first time that we've seen Foley in the building since the beginning of the year. He was interviewed by Mike Tenay a couple of weeks ago, but again, like Team 3D, he's not been seen properly until now. Mick Foley's asked why he's here by Lauren Brooke, but he sort of avoids the question, saying of course he's here to see that great Knockouts Championship match that just went down, and of course that main event. He might not like how Desmond Wolfe goes about his business, but he's sure that that is going to be a great match in the main event. Brooke presses him for an answer. She knows that he's not just here to see the action, and she wants to know specifically why he was just in Paul Heyman's office. Mick says that he's not ready to say, he's not going to answer that question, but these last 2 months have been really difficult for him, and he wants her to respect that, and he needs time to process the conversation that he's just had with Paul Heyman. On Thursday, Heyman said that he's going to bring these guys back into the fold, but he needs a little bit of time to gather his thoughts, and when he's ready, he'll tell his side of the story to the whole world on Impact. So it's a good segment rating for Mick Foley on the microphone. The Extreme Unrest storyline advancing with this segment, and it's just something to break up between the two main events and hopefully add some intrigue as to what is going to happen on the next couple of weeks on Impact. We've got Team 3D back in the fold now, and Mick Foley back in the fold, so there's clearly been something of a change. I've done this kind of because I'm happy now that we've done 2 pay-per-views, 6 weeks of Impact, that we've set up that we are going to be focusing on the young guys. So Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin, Amazing Red, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, that list of names have all been presented as stars throughout the first 6 weeks and the 2 pay-per-views, so it's not going to hurt the perception so much if Team 3D come back into the fold, Mick Foley come back into the fold, because it's not like these guys are now taking spots and holding these guys down. Motor City Machine Guns are going to be stars whether Team 3D like it or not. Mick Foley's not going to be taking a main event spot from AJ Styles or Desmond Wolfe, so I'm happy now that we've established the boundaries and the fact that we are going to do this young hungry movement no matter what. This isn't a case of retconning this or going back against it. This is clearly saying that we are doing this, the movement's continuing, but we are going to sprinkle in the experience of Team 3D and Mick Foley to hopefully help get some of those guys to an even higher level. That's what having those veterans around should be about, and that's what it is going to be about as we continue with this save. And Mick Foley's not going to be around forever, but I think we've got one more program in him that I think is going to be good and is going to lead into something else. So we're essentially using Mick Foley and his overness and the fact that if he does have another match or another big segment, when we attach one of the younger guys who we are looking to push, it's just going to really help their perception, definitely. Promoting the main event, the pre-match video package puts over AJ Styles' victory over Kurt Angle at Genesis, as well as the number 1 contendership match that Desmond Wolfe won 10 nights ago on Impact. Desmond Wolfe has had a dominant start to the year, despite that loss to Kurt Angle on the first show of 2010, but since then he has shown a single-mindedness, and he's shown it really since arriving in TNA back in October. This has led him to the main event of Against All Odds. When he sets his mind to something, he does it. He wanted to beat Kurt Angle, he wanted to earn a world title shot, and he wants to become the champion. He turned up the heat this past Thursday. He vowed to take AJ Styles' championship and then threw it to the ground, very disrespectful, almost showing that it's not so much about the physical title to Desmond Wolfe. He's throwing that down. He doesn't really care if that gets broken, and his focus is on being the best. He's not that bothered about the physical thing, but he wants to be able to gloat and hold it over everybody and tell everybody that he was right and he is the best wrestler in the world. And that is the story of the main event. Desmond Wolfe trying to take his cerebral approach, trying to outwork, outmove, outthink AJ Styles, and he does do that in some parts of the match, and it's a good rating, 75. Desmond Wolfe not off his game, thankfully, and gets a 72. Again, it's another case of Wolfe not being quite as over as we need him to be just yet, but we're going to continue to work on building him and getting him more over. This makes sense because he's only been with the company 5 months. Remember, AJ Styles has been on this national TV show for years and years and years, whereas Wolfe is still a relatively new character, and it is because of that I was not ready to change the champion just yet. Desmond Wolfe's had a good run. He's been pushed really well, and part of me did just want to pull the trigger and have Desmond Wolfe as the champion and just go 100% in trying to get him over, because of course we know he has the ability to be one of the best wrestlers in the world, but he pulls the turnbuckle cover off during the match, and this actually costs him. He goes for a jawbreaker lariat. AJ ducks it and hits a Pele kick. When Wolfe staggers back, he actually hits the back of his head into the turnbuckle, the steel turnbuckle. This rocks his boat, and AJ's then able to hit a Styles Clash, and it says a Springboard 450 splash, so AJ hits the Styles Clash, decides that might not be enough, so that does make Wolfe look even better actually, goes for the Springboard 450 splash and picks up the 1, 2, 3. The 5th defense of the title. We do protect Wolfe a little bit. I didn't do anything like that in the booking notes because I think that he did something and it backfired on him. I don't think that's enough to justify one of those notes. We did a spectacle. I'm still trying to work on the match notes. I was told that storytelling and slow build was a little bit better, so I did the slow build, but I do like the use of the spectacle, and I did sort of feel that it fit what I wanted to get across in the match. So maybe in future I will go back, but it's still a decent rating for the main event. Deserved better announcing and got the crowd buzzing to end the show. These two have good chemistry, so that's something to keep note of in the future. Fantastic heat and great wrestling though. AJ Styles winning in 20 minutes and 24. And after the match, AJ Styles celebrates in the ring, once again being pushed to his limits. He's faced Kurt Angle, Bobby Lashley and Desmond Wolfe, so that is 3 huge challenges that he's overcome. So AJ Styles looking absolutely brilliant and proving he is the best wrestler in the world. The commentators sign off on the show, putting over the incredible action we have seen at Against All Odds. That's a good rating for the end segment as well, just based on AJ's overness, so I think his momentum must be really, really high. I'm happy with that. 71, just about what I expected. I think that's exactly the same as what the last pay-per-view got. Increased our popularity in 57 regions, so that's every region it was shown in. We'll compliment AJ on a good performance. We'll compliment Kurt Angle, praise him for a great performance actually, because he did actually do better. And I'm pretty sure that I just did Samoa Joe last time. I'm pretty sure this is the 3 names that I praised last time. I'm just going to say Desmond Wolfe actually, because he held his own. Well, he didn't quite hold his own in the main event, but he put in a good performance. We'll say compliment him on a good performance, and then praise them two for a great performance, because they were really the standout performers on that show. There might be somebody who I've missed. Joe and Daniels got 76 and 75, I think so. Not too much. Like, they're not going to be hard done by not getting it. Terry Taylor is now flabby. Shame for him. Get 93,000, so I think that's like considerably more than the last pay-per-view. I'm not very pleased with that, to be honest, because now the top 100s are just going to be a little bit skewed. Yeah, so it's 3 times as many people have bought that pay-per-view, so I mean, you can say what you want about the ratings, but I've clearly done something right since I've got 3 times more people. I'm assuming that's something to do with a patch that's changed pay-per-view buy rates, which is a little bit annoying, because now that pay-per-view is always going to be dead far down. But I'm just going to take it as a sign that people who are watching Impact had to see this pay-per-view, because I've done such a great job of building it, apparently. Roderick Strong, as I've already mentioned, I've confirmed that he's signed and he will be coming to the company after Against All Odds. So yeah, he's going to debut on the next episode, the episode that's coming up after this one. And we will have, I think, vignettes to hype another debut that's coming, or maybe I'll save that for the next week, but another big name, not so much a big name at the time, but somebody who everybody watching will be familiar with. Happy with Against All Odds. We've got a new X Division champion in Kazarian. Little bit of a heist taking the title from Amazing Red. So a lot of things where a lot of people are going to be fired up. Homicide, if he shows up, is going to be pissed off at Joe for teaming with D'Angelo De Niro. We've got Wolfe, we've got the Motor City Machine Guns, we've got Team 3D back in the fold, Mick Foley back in the fold. So there's a lot going on at the minute, and I'm looking forward to that next show. I think the main event that we've got and a storyline that I'm going to set up on that show, things are going to move in the right direction, and that next pay-per-view, Destination X, I think may just be the best one we've done yet.